Okay, this is Inventor lesson number 1 for Chris and Ken of the San Diego County Water Authority. We're going to be making a Venturi meter based on this drawing right here. Before we start with Inventor, I want you to take a look at this because it's designing this. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but I'll be going through it and mumbling through some mistakes as I go through it too. We notice that the dimensions are off of this main flange right here. Most of these dimensions are coming off this way. We have inner and outer flange. We don't have too much information about what's happening here, but what our main concern is, we want to make sure this dimension, 61.7 inches, is exact in the model, and then also the inlet and the outlet, and also the flanges too. So let's go ahead and start, and we're going to create a new part right here. We're going to name this 24-inch Venturi meter. Okay, so then the first thing that we want to do is we want to make our planes and axis visible. So we highlight those, right click, and click on visibility. Now the second thing that we're going to do here is this right here is our front. We're going to switch this to the right, like that. And then we're going to click on this Y Z plane. Okay. This allows us to keep an orientation of the front and back and everything just consistent with how we're looking at it. Alright, so now we're inside of our sketch. What we want to do first is we want to create a box, and that box is going to be dimensioned to the size of the Venturi meter. And if we come over here, we have 61.7 and 24 inches. 61.7. It's 24 inches, but this needs to be 12 inches there. So that gives us the dimensions for kind of the portion of the bounding box right here that we're doing for this. Actually, let's see here. Actually, the height is 16. My apologies for that. The height is 16. There we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to draw the profile that we have for the Venturi meter. So we're going to start off here, kind of get it up to about 12 inches where it is. We're going to go out. It's flat first for about 10 inches or something. We'll look at the dimensions, click there, and then it goes down, then it goes flat across, and then it goes up to here somewhere in connection with that point. So that's what the inside of the Venturi meter looks like. So now we're going to actually dimension this. So this portion, but before that, we were looking at our bounding box right here, and it's lines that we're not going to be using. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave those lines in there, but we're going to project some geometry in here. So that is projecting geometry, so we have access to those axes there. And then the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of trimming. Trim that line, and trim that line, and trim that line, and these lines right here. I do not know. Oh, here we go. There's a dimension attached to that. And so notice that dimension right there. So we want to go ahead and do is click on there and delete the dimension, so then we can delete this line. And now we can add this dimension back there. So now it's constrained to the projected planes there. So let's look here. The first part we're going to do is look at the inlet. That's going to be 12 inches. We're pretty close there. The second part is this horizontal part, which is 12.31 inches. So let's make that 12.31 inches right there. Next part's a little bit tricky. We only know the dimension to the center line here of this, what I call a flat part here. It's 27.43 minus half of 6.75. So this dimension here is going to be from here to here is 27.43 minus 0.5 times 6.75. So notice that we're doing math in there so that we don't have to worry about calculating it out. So that gives us whatever that dimension is. Okay, so then this dimension here is 6.75, and then this dimension here we'll look here is 18.91. 18.91 divided by 2. Okay, so there is our dimensions right there. Now, one thing to notice here is that it does say that there's a 5-degree incline there. So that's about where we should be at. So it looks relatively the same, but 12 inches, 18.9 inches. Okay. Now let's look at this height right here. The height of the middle portion is 13.5, or the diameter of the middle portion is 13.5. So let's go back over here. And had a little hiccup there. From here to here, this is going to be 13.5 divided by 2. So that's looking a little bit better, like our Venturi meter. And so the next step here is we need to create this shell. So the shell is, if we look at it, we don't have any real dimensions on here. So I'm going to call this 1.5 inches. That's a little bit less than 1.88, which is the diameter or the thickness of the flanges. So we're going to come to offset here, and we'll do a 1.5 inch offset right there. Okay, now we got all this extra line work here that we're going to want to trim. Now there's a lot of different ways to do this, but this is the way I'm doing this based on having to do this several times already. So okay, so now we have that right there. Remove the dimension on here. I do not see a dimension that would have that on there. Okay, so we've deleted that line work now. So now we're going to come up here and let's see here. We need to make the flange thickness here. So let's do an offset of this line here. This is going to be 1.88. Right there. And then we have a line coming across here, which is the top of our flange. And we didn't make sure that the dimension for that is again 16 inches, so we're good with that dimension. We can go ahead now and trim these portions away, and trim that, and trim that, and trim that. Trim those extra lines away. Over here, now we're going to dimension this here to be 1.88. And dimension the thickness of our flange again. It's already dimensioned down to 1.88 because we offset it, so we're good to go. Now, if you notice, we got a couple of issues here with some of these line work There's a couple of purple lines here and there. It means that it might be over constrained, or there might be some issues. So let's look at this scope of constraint interference. So we're looking at this to see if there's any interference in there. It doesn't look like it's too bad. It just looks like there's some, these are not dimensioned right. So what we can do is we can delete these. If you want to, get rid of these here, we can delete those and simply snap to the existing line work there. And that'll turn them green, and that'll ensure that our dimensions have been captured correctly. We got another one right here, and we'll redraw that one. And now we're all green, so we're good to go. Okay, so then we're going to finish the sketch. It zooms in. Now the next thing we want to do is we're going to rename this right here to Venturi profile. I want to name these sketches so that way we remember where these sketches came from. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do another sketch here on the same plane, and we're going to draw from the center point out there. And what that's going to be is that's going to be our center line. Oh, I named Venturi wrong. I am sorry. Should have known that. Okay. Apparently that sketch did not work on there, so we're going to drop that sketch in there. There we go. So now we're going to do a center line, which is going to be our axis line that we're going to rotate around. Other programs have actual axes, an axis or something, axis that you can, that's made an axis, but with Inventor, any line can be an axis in here. So we have that. There's our line. So now we're going to call this axis. Axis of evil, yes. Axis of Venturi. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to do a revolve. So we're going to click on the revolve up here. Profile, this is a section here. Notice how it shades in this solid section, so that's a good sign. And then our axis, we click on that line. Boom, booyah, we have now our Venturi meter. Okay, so that's pretty good. It looks like a Venturi meter. The dimensions are correct, everything's fine. Okay, now the next thing is our holes for the flanges. So for the flanges, we're going to go ahead and click start a new sketch, start a 2D sketch, and we're going to make it on to the flange face there. And what we now need to do is draw the correct line work to be able to pinpoint a point here where the hole is going to go. So we have the form a line here, and we can call this you can call it a construction line. You don't really need to, but sometimes it makes it easier. And then we're going to project geometry in here, and now we're going to dimension this construction line right here. Now the dimension is going to be 360 degrees divided by the number of holes divided by 2, because we're going to be splitting that difference. And we're going to go to point here, click on our point there, hit OK, and now we've created a point within the sketch. Okay, so then now we come over here to our hole tool, and it says from sketch. Notice how there's little crosses in there. That's where our holes are. We click on that. That gives us a hole that goes, notice right here, all the way through everything. And then once we're looking at that, let's see here, we have to do the size of our hole, and the size of our hole is 1.38 inches. Okay, so there's our hole. Whoa, looks like we got an issue here. So what happened here? Basically, we did not dimension the bolt hole circle. So now we're going to go back to our hole here. Notice the sketch is underneath the hole tool. We're going to call this sketch bolt hole circle. And I did that on purpose so that way sometimes you can see, okay, I forgot how I did it, but if it's set up right, it should be easy enough to go in here and set a dimension to my bolt hole circle. Okay, it is not allowing me to draw that. Okay, so we're having an issue here. Probably because this is pulling off of an image that was already on there. So let's go back and let's just erase our hole and start all over again. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our sketch here. Hit delete. See what happened? It snapped to the to an existing circle there. So because of that, it created it wasn't allow us to dimension it. So you got to be careful sometimes when you're snapping to see. You don't want it to snap there. You want to go beyond that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and dimension this. Let's look at our drawing. Bolt hole circle, 29.5 inches. We're going to click a point right in there and hit OK. Now we're going to do a hole from the sketch. Click in there, 1.38 inches. OK. Now we're going to do a pattern. And the pattern, we're going to pick a feature, which is going to be the hole right here. And we're going to pick our rotation axis, which is going to be this point right there. We're going to do 20 holes. And there we go, guys. So there's our Venturi meter. We'll worry about putting on the other issues, that other things on the later on. But anyways, that's our Venturi meter for right now.